What's up, Two Times fam? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Baltimore Way. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I invite you to join the Two Times family. Tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get notified of all uploads. Be sure to like this video if you're rocking with the content. Comment down below and share your thoughts. Of course, always keeping it respectful. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. In this video, we will be talking about an on-again, off-again relationship that turned for the worse. So let's get right into it. Dominic, 43, and Shanika, 36, had a complicated relationship after their marriage in 2006. The couple separated and ultimately divorced in 2010 after their second son was born. In 2011, Shanika gave birth to a daughter whose father was not Dominic. The relationship between Shanika and her daughter's father also fell apart. As time went on, Dominic and Shanika later reconciled between November or December of 2011, and they moved in together. Dominic also stepped up as a father figure to Shanika's daughter. The couple and their blended family seemed to be doing well. 5 years later, there was trouble in paradise. In October 2016, Dominic moved out of the Randallstown home he shared with Shanika and their children because he was no longer providing support for the family. The three children, the couple's two sons together, and Shanika's daughter stayed with Shanika. Shanika's oldest son from a relationship prior to her and Dominic's also lived in the home. After Dominic moved out, Shanika began dating a man named Steven. Steven moved in with Shanika in the home she and Dominic used to share. According to court records, Dominic had also moved on and began dating a woman named Brenda around the same time. Dominic moved in with Brenda, whose home was just 7 minutes away from Shanika's home. Despite their separation and new living arrangements, the couple had an amicable custody arrangement that allowed Dominic to have his two biological sons with Shanika on weekends. Shanika would frequently allow her daughter, that Dominic stepped up for, to go with her brothers on their scheduled weekends with their father. When the children stayed with Dominic for the weekend, a woman named Janelle, who lived nearby, would take Dominic's children to school on Mondays so that Dominic and Brenda could get to work on time. Despite their rocky relationship, Shanika and Dominic were able to maintain a cordial relationship and follow the custody agreement until February 2017. On the 25th of February 2017, there was an incident between Shanika and Dominic at a car dealership in Ellicott City regarding owing money on a car. The incident between the two resulted in them seeking assault charges against each other. Dominic was scheduled for trial of the alleged assault against Shanika for April 2017. In addition to the court date, Shanika also filed a protective order against Dominic and was granted a temporary one. She wrote in the petition for the order, "I fear for my life and that Dominic will try to kill me or hurt me." It was on March 29, 2017, that Dominic learned that Shanika had successfully obtained a 1-year protective order against him. He was served by a Baltimore County police officer and was told to surrender any firearms. According to reports, he told the officer he didn't have any. Police said they checked the state's database and found nothing showed up in his name. According to court records, Dominic told his current girlfriend he was done with his ex forever because of this. On Sunday, April 2nd, 2017, Shanika and Steven hosted a party at their house on the 4100 block of Bald Eagle Court with about 20 to 30 guests present. As a part of their custody agreement, Dominic had his 2 sons at his home. Brenda went to bed upstairs alone, while Dominic slept downstairs with his boys. As the night went on into the early morning hours of Monday morning, April 3rd, 2017, Shanika's 4-year-old daughter at the time woke up after hearing loud bangs, according to court documents. The noise frightened the little girl, so she went downstairs to find her older brother. Court documents state that it wasn't unusual for the little girl to come into her big brother's room in the middle of the night, so her brother thought nothing of it and they both returned to sleep. At about 6:45 that morning, Shanika's oldest son left for school without going upstairs, leaving his baby sister alone in his room. The little girl woke up. She walked upstairs to more than likely look for her mother. As she entered the master bedroom, she discovered the deceased bodies of her mother and her mother's boyfriend, Stephen. After the gruesome discovery, the little girl went outside the house. According to Dominic's version of events, he decided to take his 2 sons to school that morning of April 3rd because his boss allowed him to come in a little later to work. Dominic said he attempted to contact the children's usual ride to school, Janelle, to tell her not to worry about taking the children to school, but she was already en route to pick them up when he called her cell phone. Dominic says as he drove his sons to school, which required him to drive past Shanika's residence, he noticed Shanika's daughter standing outside her home. He said he pulled over to see what was going on, and as he spoke with her, she told him that her mother and Stephen were dead. Dominic said he entered into the home to find the 2 bodies himself. He said he checked the other rooms. According to Dominic, he thought that Shanika's older son had committed the crimes and wanted to protect him by tampering with the crime scene. Dominic specifically picked up shell casings, rounds, and latex gloves he found on the floor in the house. He said that he put them in a bag and shoved it into his pants pocket. While driving to work, a man named Jordan, a childhood friend of Dominic, noticed Dominic's vehicle in front of Shanika's house. He decided to call his friend because he was aware of the protective order Shanika had against him. When Dominic didn't answer, he found something was off and decided to turn around just to make sure. Once he arrived at the house, Jordan spoke to Dominic's 2 sons who were sitting outside in the vehicle Dominic drove. Then he approached the house and opened the door to Shanika's house, and that's when he saw Dominic, who he said looked to be in shock, at the top of the steps gathering clothes for Shanika's little girl. Dominic then told Jordan that Shanika and Stephen were deceased. Jordan then asked his friend if he called 911, but Dominic had not called, claiming he left his phone at home. According to court records, while Jordan called 911 and Dominic walked down the street, where he concealed a bag of materials he had gathered earlier from the scene under a green drain and then walked back to Shanika's house. Once police officers arrived at the scene, they too discovered the victims' bodies. Police saw both displayed multiple bullet wounds. The responding officer observed a window and a window screen on top of the couch in the living room. They also discovered a wicker lawn chair that matched one of the front porch under the open window, along with a black glove. Officers also talked to a neighbor who claimed to have heard noises around 4 a.m. After the crime scene was secured, forensic technicians noticed the house had security cameras. They recovered camera footage showed a masked man walking in the living room area just before 4 a.m. on the morning of April 3rd, 2017, and running out a minute or so later. Right around the time, the neighbors said they heard noises. The video surveillance also showed Shanika's daughter running out the house at 8:25 a.m. Then Dominic showed up shortly after, putting her in the vehicle and going into the house, according to court records. 20 minutes later, his friend showed up and called 911, documents state. Technicians also recovered additional evidence related to the weapon from the crime scene. Detectives also noticed that the master bedroom where the victims were and the master bath was ransacked, but not any other room in the house. It appeared as though the scene had been staged by the alleged perpetrator, according to detectives. Police eventually took Dominic to the station to get his statement. The police investigation also revealed that in 2006, Dominic had purchased a weapon that was the same as the one that could have been used to hit Shanika and Steven. Dominic explained that he had purchased the blicky to protect his house. Investigators say in the court documents that when they searched the vehicle that Dominic drove, they found a gym bag containing ammunition that matched the type that was used in the crime. Dominic was arrested and held at county jail. While he was in the county jail, Dominic told another friend over the phone to get rid of something for him that was under a green water spout catcher, court records said. Detectives determined he was talking about the location down the street from Shanika's house where they found the bag containing a bloody glove, a bullet, and shell casings. Evidence later showed the glove contained DNA belonging to Shanika and Steven, and the bullet and the shell casings matched those at the crime scene. There was additional evidence pertaining to Dominic's involvement, including deleted messages obtained from his then girlfriend, pleading him not to get into any wickedness and to please come back home. The messages were sent at 3:14 and 4:15 a.m. on the same day of the crime, telling him, according to court records, plotting evil does not repay evil, which is a portion of the Bible verse Romans 12:17. Records show he did not respond to her pleas. Police charged Dominic with the crimes and he was held without bond. Dominic maintained his innocence during the investigation. His lawyer stated that his client had no motive to harm Shanika or her boyfriend, that they had worked out their issues despite the pending charges. However, prosecutors weren't buying it, and neither were the victim's family and friends, who were relieved that Dominic was arrested and charged. While awaiting trial for the murders, Dominic pleaded guilty to the assault charges between him and Shanika in July 2017. In March 2018, Dominic went to trial. A Baltimore County jury heard witnesses, including the police officers who were called to the home, a crime scene technician, and the friend who called 911. Several people had to leave the court as jurors were shown graphic crime scene evidence. Jurors also heard from Shanika's mother, who had to testify on her late daughter's birthday. Dominic also took the stand in his own defense. Cross-examination and closing arguments were heard. Then the jury left the courtroom to begin deliberation. In a little over 2 hours, they reached a verdict. Dominic was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 firearm-related charges. In July 2018, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole and another life sentence. Dominic's attorney tried to file a motion for a new trial for his client, but the judge denied it. He said at the time that they were going to appeal the verdict, which they did in 2019, according to court records. However, it doesn't appear that the appeal has actually changed the outcome of the original verdict. For now, justice still stands for Shanika and Steven. Rest in peace to Shanika and Steven. My sincerest and deepest condolences to their families. Domestic violence allegations could sometimes have so many loopholes when it involves the system. It seems like Shanika did all she could to protect herself from an ex she feared who would harm her or take her life. She pressed charges and filed a protective order. It's so sad that her efforts appear to be in vain. Hopefully, this case brought to light the errors of the system ways when it comes to domestic violence allegations. Alright fam, tell me what you think of this video down in the comment section below. This is a crazy story. I apologize if this video was triggering to anybody. Domestic violence is not an easy topic or situation to discuss. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're rocking with the content, be sure to like this video. Thank you for watching until the end. Stay prayed up in these times. Blessings, fam. This your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
YouTube fam, this your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story. Subscribe if you're new to the fam. Hit that notification bell for future uploads. Let's get right into it. Inner city carryouts or food spots. Often Chinese joints are known for late nights being open and early to always get something to eat, and where some people go to the same place for years to eat. The tricky thing about carryouts though is location, depending on what city you are in. But in Baltimore, Maryland, these kind of spots unfortunately sometimes can be looked at as a fast dollar when a stick-up kid runs in and robs the place and its customers, or even a death trap if you are beefing in a certain neighborhood and you get caught inside a carryout or corner store. Is nowhere to go. Unfortunately, sometimes it's just luck of the draw, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will take it back 12 years to discuss a case of a few young men and attempts to hit a quick lick that ended in tragedy. According to sources, at the time, 72-year-old Charles Bowman was a Vietnam vet and retired truck driver that still had a work ethic like no other, and was a security guard for the Afro-American newspaper. With 6 children, 15 grandchildren, and 5 great-grands, Charles was a hard worker and family man. Most of the time before his shift, Charles would go to the same Chinese carryout he went to for years to get food, to the point he could just go in and say, "Give me my usual," and they already knew. The carryout right on Greenmount Avenue in Waverly was known to have good food. But on April 8th, 2010, a few young men had money on their mind, not food. Michael Hunter and 2 homeboys, Troy Taylor and another man we will call B, were allegedly all together that day. When Michael told them he wanted to rob the carryout, B wasn't with it and decided to bop off. But Troy and Michael went with their move. In later testimonies, B said Michael showed him a gun and mask before him and Troy entered the carryout. Allegedly, as the 2 men entered, Mr. Charles was in the carryout waiting for his order, a pork yakami. Right before work, when Michael attempted to go in the man's pockets to take the money, before gunfire erupted and the men fled. Mr. Charles was hit, and unfortunately, he would not survive. With the murder of the 72-year-old and another hit of a 22-year-old 2 days later 4 blocks away at a gas station on East 33rd Street, BPD put officers all up and down Greenmount Avenue, and Mr. Charles' family, devastated, wanted answers. Allegedly, B saw Michael a few days later and asked him what happened, and he said Pops tried to grab me. He never said he shot the man, but B later told police he already knew what that meant. The crazy part is, Michael only got $13 from Mr. Charles. BPD with witnesses and evidence eventually arrested Michael and Troy and charged them with the murder of the 72-year-old man. The key witness for the prosecutors ended up being B. Michael's friend who went to high school with him at Lake Clifton. At first hesitant, B told the courts, "That's my boy. I grew up with him. I don't want to tell on him," before stating the events of the day, with Michael showing him the gun and mask, Troy agreeing to participate, and B hearing the shot while walking off. Then Michael later telling B Mr. Charles tried to defend himself. With the evidence stacked against them, and the jury hearing a hard-working vet that was gunned down over $13, Michael and Troy were both found guilty of the murder. Troy was sentenced to life with all but 30 years suspended. With Michael being the alleged trigger man, he was sentenced to life with all but 50 years suspended. Rest in peace, Mr. Charles Bowman. I definitely send my prayers and condolences to the family. More of this story, a quick fix is not always guaranteed. Anything can happen in a robbery, even if it's not the intention. Most people work hard for their money, regardless of what it is or how much it is, and might not go that easy, especially if they feel like you might shoot anyway. Don't give up your freedom for nothing and take away someone from their family for a little bit of change. The crazy thing is, all they got was $13. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story. Rest in peace, Mr. Charles. You know, this is an older story. This carry out recently had some stuff going on too, you know. It's a known spot, you feel me? It's kind of like a hot spot. A lot of hoppers hang out there. I've been in there a few times, you feel me? And you know, it's crazy because when you go in these spots, you feel me, you just try and go get something to eat, you minding your business, but you always gotta watch around and see what's going on. A lot of people wait for their food outside. A lot of people order ahead of time, but this man was 72 years old. He wasn't going in there with the intentions to do nothing but get his food and go to work. Unfortunately, he was there at the wrong time, wrong day. Some young dudes was trying to make a quick dollar. You know, they tried to go in his pockets. And you know, Mr. Charles wasn't going like that. You know, this man was a vet. He's seen some things. He's been through some things. He probably looking like these boys young enough to be my grandkids, you know. And sometimes, man, I understand people be saying, man, just kick it out, just give it up, just give it up. Of course, that's always the thing to do. Make it out safely. If somebody pull a blick on you, give them what you got. But a lot of times people feel like they still might shoot anyway. Then his homeboy, Michael and them homeboy, you know, he ended up testifying. I don't think he got no time because he said he walked away before it even happened. But he was the key witness. But man, they threw their life away for $13. Took that man away from his family. That's sad all around the board, man. Definitely rest in peace, that man. And Shorty and them, man, you know, at the end of the day, I understand that they was just trying to make a few dollars and they probably didn't think it was going to go that way. But that's what I be telling y'all. You never know how situations going to go. Everything that you plan might not go the way you think it's going to go, man. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. This is another episode of Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.
What's up, 2 times fam? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Baltimore Way. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I invite you to join the 2 times family. Tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get notified of all uploads. Be sure to like this video if you're rocking with the content. Comment down below and share your thoughts. Of course, always keeping it respectful. Feel free to share this video. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. In this episode, we will be talking about a terrible story of how a young mother and her son lost their lives because of someone she once called a friend. Let's get right into it. 31-year-old Jennifer lived with her 7-year-old son on the 100 block of Up Manor Road in the quiet block of row houses in Southwest Baltimore Uplands neighborhood. Jennifer was a devoted mother who loved her son. Jennifer was working on her nursing certificate and had plans to work in the healthcare field. She was described as fun and bubbly by her sister. Jennifer's son was also gifted and attended Baltimore International Academy, the language immersion charter school in Anthonyville, where he was in 2nd grade. He was in the Chinese program. Those who knew the 7-year-old described him as a gentle soul and always smiling. On Thursday morning, May 28, 2015, at 8:20, police responded to a shooting call at the home of Jennifer and her son. A neighbor found it odd that she didn't see Jennifer and her young son leaving for school that morning, so she decided to call Jennifer's family members. Friends and families of the mother and son began to arrive at the taped-off crime scene. When one man asked and found out who had been killed, he demanded, "Tell me you're lying." Sadly, Jennifer and her son had been found shot in their home, both deceased at the scene. Family members and city officials urged people to come forward if they had any information about who could have done this. City councilman at the time, Brandon Scott, said that the person responsible was a coward. As the investigation continued, a family member of Jennifer and her son said that they believed the little boy was slain because he could identify his mother's attacker. Police also believed that a friend or associate had vital information to the case, even if they weren't directly responsible for pulling the trigger. 7 months after the incident, family members were frustrated that no one had come forward. They were uneasy that the perpetrator was still out there. They considered Jennifer may have been a target for robbery. They collected donations in hopes to give a reward for anything that would lead to an arrest. 4 years went by and still no arrests had been made in Jennifer's and her son's case. According to BPD, any leads that did come in led nowhere, and they were still unaware of a motive. According to reports, officials suggested to the victim's family that they had some suspects in sight, and the case was still open. However, with no leads or arrests, the victim's family had started to believe that the case had gone cold. Not knowing why or what happened only stalled the grieving process for the grief-stricken family. Almost a year later, in September 2020, federal prosecutors brought charges against a man named Andre. The Fed said Andre carried out the hit on Jennifer and her young son, allegedly. However, according to reports, Andre had assistance in executing his terrible deed. In June 2021, a woman named Kiera, 36, was charged and became Andre's co-defendant. She was arrested in Texas. She pleaded guilty to her charges in November 2021 and faces up to 10 years in prison and the possibility of a life sentence. According to plea records, Jennifer and Kiara had known each other since they were teenagers. When Jennifer married Kiara's child's father in March 2015, Kiara took part in the bachelorette party in Eastern Shore, Maryland. The 4-page plea agreement went on to say that Jennifer and an unnamed conspirator began supplying smack to a second conspirator she met at the bachelorette party, allegedly. Both Jennifer and Kiara would travel to the Eastern Shore several times a week to provide the second person with the smack, the plea said. However, in early May 2015, the friends had a falling out, in part because Kiara had owed Jennifer $20 for a prescription pill, according to the plea. Court records state that Kiara had little cash flow, while Jennifer would bring in large sums of cash from her alleged business activities. On May 12th, an alleged partner of Jennifer's was arrested. In an attempt to raise bail money, Jennifer asked Andre and another individual to help sell the smack she was holding. Prosecutors say that Andre allegedly saw an opportunity. A couple weeks later, Andre told Kiara he was planning on hitting and taking off Jennifer, according to court documents. Records went on to say Andre not only confirmed his plans with Kiara, but also planned to harm her son if he was present at the time of the holdup. Kiara allegedly offered to get Andre the tool to use to carry out his plan. Kiara contacted a relative in prison to help her get the blicky and promised a portion of smack in return for their efforts, allegedly. Court records say that the night before the hits, Andre spent the night at Jennifer's home and knew that her son would be there. Jennifer's son was not feeling well and stayed home from school that morning. Prosecutors say then Andre left and went to Kiara's house to retrieve the .45 and went back to Jennifer's house. The alleged triggerman then returned to Kiara's house with the blicky and the smack, court records say. Allegedly, when Kiara asked Andre what happened, he went into detail and told her where he left the bodies laying. They weren't found until the next day. By that time, according to court records, Andre had given back the blicky, weighed the smack, and that was determined to be worth $8,000. He gave Kiara's relative inmate their cut, and Kiara got her cut and sold it for pocket money, according to the plea. Court records show that Kiara first met the BPD detectives in May 2015 and later with ATF in February 2020. She also met with federal law enforcement agencies in July 2020. She testified in front of a grand jury in July 2020 as well, months before Andre was charged and arrested. Her plea says she was not fully truthful in those meetings. Family members of Jennifer had repeatedly disputed that she was involved in any illegal dealings. Her brother said that Jennifer knew people involved in that lifestyle and she was enamored with the fast life, but disputed that his sister had any involvement in that life. Her family made sure to point out her positive impact on her son's life and who she was as a woman and mother. Andre's attorney told the Baltimore Sun that his client disputes his involvement in the slayings and says he was in Eastern Shore at the time police believe the incident took place. Andre is scheduled for a 3-week jury trial in May 2022. Rest in peace to Jennifer and her baby boy. My condolences and sincerest prayers to the family. I hope the guilty plea has brought them some closure. I know they still have to go through the trial of the other co-defendants, so unfortunately the journey for closure goes on for now. I pray that this holiday season they can find peace and joy for and with each other. I'm sure Jennifer would have never thought that someone she called her friend was behind her untimely departure and that of her son. Watch those close to you. They may not always have the best intentions. Jealousy runs deep. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. Thank you all for watching. Shout out to all those who made it to the end. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
This your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch the video to the end to hear the full story. Subscribe if you're new to the fam. Hit that notification bell for future uploads. Let's get right into it. The MTA, Maryland Transit Administration. I remember catching the bus everywhere before I learned how to drive. And the stuff you see is crazy, and the people you run into. The thing about being around a lot of people is you never know what somebody is thinking or what they is on. I'm a firm believer some people should not have weapons because either they have a point to prove or are too emotional with anger problems. Having a blick, in my opinion, is for defense, to protect yourself and your family. But some people play offense with guns and feel like it gives them power. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing the case involving a young man and woman that unfortunately left an MTA bus driver gone. 51-year-old Marcus Parks, according to family and friends, was a mentor, positive person, and always the peacemaker and protector for his family. Marcus had been a bus driver for 20 years and enjoyed his work and was known as a veteran. After returning to work from recovering from CO-19, Marcus in October 2020 was dropping off passengers in the 1200 block of East Fayette Street when Cameron Silcott and Michelle Green attempted to get on the bus. Allegedly, the two didn't have exact change to pay the fare, And so Cameron asked Marcus, could he break a $20 bill? In which Marcus, the driver, stated he could not, and pointed them to a local corner store to get change. Cameron got irritated and started arguing with Marcus before the young lady, Nichelle, refused to pay for her bus fare at all and grabbed Marcus's work book bag and tossed it to Cameron before they both ran off the bus. Since they had his property, Marcus ran after the two, with Cameron holding up the bag like it was a game. Not knowing that Marcus, a former Lake Clifton sports player, even in his 50s, would catch up to him. Once he realized Marcus was getting close, Cameron pulled out a blick from his dip and let off 5 shots, hitting Marcus. Instead of leaving it at that, he ran up to the injured bus driver and shot multiple more times, leaving Marcus gone, struck 10 times. As BPD got on the scene, they would talk to witnesses and get surveillance footage in the area and the MTA bus. Marcus' family were hurt and confused. Who would do something to the 51-year-old man? A press conference was held and a vigil for the veteran bus driver, with family, friends, and other MTA drivers as well speaking out. As surveillance came back, BPD quickly realized the whole incident was caught on camera. And with technology and tips, a name came in: Cameron Silcott. A search would show Cameron was accused earlier that year of threatening to shoot another bus driver in Anne Arundel County after showing him his blick and saying, "I'll hit you up," and was locked up for that. Also, other situations involving beating his brother and his brother's girlfriend over an argument. The female, Nichelle Green, had a spot in Perkins Homes. BPD sent SWAT and officers to the home, which was located not too far from where the shooting happened. As Cameron and Nichelle heard police banging on the door, SWAT trying to get in, Cameron tried to escape, jumping out the window, but police was right there. He screamed, "It was all me, not her," stating Nichelle was innocent and didn't do anything. But they both were arrested and charged with murder of Marcus and other charges. In the home, Marcus's bag was allegedly found with his belongings and MTA ID. Also 2 9mm clips. Cameron was on the run since 2019 on 3 handgun violations after flashing a blick on a bus driver in Anne Arundel County and probation violations in Virginia. Once the case made the trial, which was just recently, Cameron, now 25, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and use of a firearm in commission of a crime, in which the judge recommended a sentence of life in prison. Nichelle Green, now 29, pleaded guilty to first-degree felony murder and acknowledged she was part of the crime that ultimately killed Marcus. Her recommended sentence is life, all suspended, but 40 years. During court, the family of Marcus spoke out, including one of his sons, stating Cameron robbed him of the chance to have his mentor by his side at his wedding, and for Marcus to be on the sidelines at his grandkids' sports events. Cameron just looked back at the family, emotionless. As for Nichelle, she was remorseful. Rest in peace to Mr. Marcus Parks. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to the family, as hopefully his memory will live on in their hearts forever. More of this story, don't let having a blick and a short temper turn you into a person that can't control their emotions. Think about others, not just yourself. Everyone has families and loved ones. So before you pull that trigger, know you could be hurting a whole community of people and yourself. Marcus was just doing his job when somebody with a point to prove robbed him of his life. Now Cameron and Nichelle gotta live with that. 5-minute decision that got them life in prison. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story, you feel me? First and foremost, like I said, rest in peace, Marcus, you know what I mean? I send my prayers and condolences to his family. This is a recent situation. I mean, of course it happened a few years ago, but they just got sentenced, like, I wanna say this week, you feel me? And it was really pointless. I don't know if the young lady was just trying to have fun. She was playing and took Marcus' bag thinking it was a joke. But when she tossed it to Cameron, I guess in his mind, I don't know what he thought. He just pulled out and started blicking. You feel me? I don't know if he had a point to prove. I don't know what he was on, because he had already allegedly got locked up for threatening another bus driver in a whole nother county in the same way. So I don't know if he just one of them dudes that get a blick that just feel like he on top of the world. Can't nobody do nothing with him. Some people be like that. You know, and this man was 51 years old. His family said he loved his job. He looked out for everybody. He really wasn't trying to hurt him. He was just trying to get his bag back. So he wasn't no threat to them. They was a threat to him, you know. At the end of the day, he was just doing his job, man. It's a messed up situation, you feel me? I feel for his family. He got 3 sons, grandkids, you know. It be like that, man, you feel me? Cause dude just, I guess he wanted to show he go hard. And then when they came to grab him, he tried to say it was just him, it wasn't her. But at the end of the day, she initiated the whole situation, allegedly. If she ain't grabbed the bag, none of this probably wouldn't have happened. They probably would have got off the bus, got up out of there, and you feel me? Marcus probably still would have been living, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know what was up with bro. I don't know what was on his mind. I don't know why he was carrying it like that. I don't know if he felt like he was disrespected or whatever. But man, we gotta watch that temper, you feel me? Because at the end of the day, you took a father, you took somebody that the community loved for nothing. But yeah, man, sad story. Y'all already know, man. This is another episode of Baltimore Way. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's all love, fam. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.